What's up, everybody? Kinetic here, and welcome back to Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. We are finally getting to the Barbarian, and this took a little over a week now to come out with this build because I haven't really touched my Barbarian since the original D3. Ever since Reaper of Souls came out, I've put a lot of more emphasis on the new class, the Crusader, playing a Witch Doctor for the first time, among other things. So getting to this point where I'm starting to make builds for a Barbarian took a lot of effort, a lot of farming to get a lot of the new pieces that have come out that I didn't have to understand the class again. It's been a wild journey, and I could really sit here and ramble, and I probably will be rambling, so I'm giving you a little warning right now. There's probably going to be some rambling in this video, but I'm going to try and keep it short and concise, especially in the beginning, just to kind of give you the need-to-know info as far as what the build is about and just what you need to know. And then if you feel like sticking around and listening to my knowledge bombs, I guess, or whatever, of the things that I've discovered over the past week or so, then continue watching, I guess, from there. But Barbarian is awesome, man. I played a lot of Barbarian in Diablo 2, so going into Diablo 3, originally, this was my first character. Draven was my first character that I made back then, and I thought I would get back into it, but then I was like, I want to do some other things. So that's, again, another reason why, see, I'm already rambling. That's the reason why it took me like a while to get caught up to Barbarian again, but it's been really fun. And so, you know, through all that, I've tried to be as true and honest to myself so that way I can make sure that I'm making a really good build for Torment 10 Rift farming. Again, these builds that I'm doing, this build and the ones recent to here, are just for normal Rift farming. You can use them for greater Rifts if you want to. In fact, almost all of the testing that I did for this build was through greater rifts, to kind of give it a sense of like timing as far as like how fast am I clearing these stages and stuff like that, and then tweaking and see if it took longer or shorter or something like that. More rambling. So the 6th piece of the waste is where we're going to go, because the Whirlwind as a build is just super good at farming rifts, and so are these swords. The Bull Catho swords are amazing. So what we're getting here is we're getting some additional damage because we are whirlwinding, like the whirlwind itself, but actually where pretty much the majority of our damage is coming from is actually from the 6th piece and the Dust Devils that are coming out that do 2,500% weapon damage, which is pretty insane. So having said that, Dust Devils is a physical rune, so we want to actually tune our damage to be physical, and for the most part, I think most people are going, okay, because that's physical, let's make everything we possibly can physical. But I made some adjustments for the sake of trying to do something original, but not just for the sake of originality. I also wanted to do something that was just kind of a little bit of a twist that would make it unique and fun for me personally. So you'll see some of those differences here pretty soon. And I messed around with like going back and forth between like mixing the Wastes and the Immortal King set to try and see what I could get there, but nothing comes close to the speed of the both Cathos swords. Increasing our Fury generation, which is nice, and during Whirlwind, 30% increased attack speed, which is great for our Dust Devils, and movement speed. That's actually probably the bigger part of why these swords, I would say, are so essential, especially for multiplayer rift grinding. The speed is just, it's hands down what makes this so good for running rifts. It's unbelievable how fast you move because of these swords. But I've also been picking up a lot of belts since trying to get a new gear and things like that. And the Pride of Cassius is probably the best belt that is in the game for Barbarians, I want to say, because it increases the duration of Ignore Pain by up to 6 seconds. Ignore Pain, reduce all damage taken by 50% and gain immunity to all controlling impairing effects for 5 seconds. So I just basically, because of this belt, doubled the amount of reduced damage and the immunity to control impairing effects. The rune that I've chosen for this, because this is actually kind of a, I don't want to say it's a glass cannon, but it is kind of fragile compared to other tankier Barbarian builds. So the instant healing for 35% is the way that I go personally, but also another way that you can go instead of that, wrong skill, is the Iron Hide, increasing the duration for 7 seconds, and then if you manage to get like the 6-second belt, then it's a really long time with Ignore Pain. But I really like the Contempt for Weakness because of the little bit of healing. It helps out a lot, I've seen. Focus and Restraint is the combo that we're going for here for the rings. For the gem in the head, okay, this actually brings me to a really important part of, and I'm going to try to keep this short because this is a whole nother story, but in the beginning I was really pushing for as much reduced cooldown as I could possibly get on here. I was inspired by the Crusader and the new Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, with the Golgok of Swiftness, and just stacking more and more and more reduced cooldown to try and get us into Akra as champion as much as possible. I thought I could bring something like that to Barbarian, but it turned out to be just not worth it. Like, all the things you have to try and push out to put in reduced cooldown just really wasn't worth it. These legendary gems, the Bane of the Trapped, Pain Enhancer, and Teguk, after all of my own personal testing, right, rift after rift after rift, these are, as seen by other builds and confirmed by me, to be, I think, probably the best legendary gems for a Whirlwind build, because of the rate at which we are attacking means that the Teguk is getting a lot of stacks really quickly. The critical hits make for good bleed damage. This was also physical damage, which, because our Dust Devils are physical, and because we want physical on our bracers, just means more and more damage, right? Plus the attack speed. This is really important as well. We want to try and get a lot of attack speed as we can for whirlwinding. Not for the whirlwind hits themselves, but again, the attack speed benefits the Dust Devils in a major way, and that is, of course, like we have seen from the 6-piece bonus, the bulk of our damage right there. And I think that actually kind of concludes things for the most part on the gear. The amulet is just because this is a nice Ouroboros, and I'm going for the strong arm braces. I notice a lot of people either go for steady strikers or they go for Lakuni Prowlers because of the innate or guaranteed attack speed that will be placed on these bracers. But to me, I really like the strong arm bracers because we are knocking enemies around. The 30% more damage for 5 seconds, to me, I think is more valuable, especially in a group situation, because as far as I can tell from the research that I've done, that 30% benefits everybody in the party. So when you rush in with Furious Charge, right, and you're hitting enemies with this knockback effect, which is triggering our strong arm bracers, all those enemies, and it can be everybody within like a certain area, hit by that Furious Charge, they all take 30% more damage from everybody in the party, it seems. So that, to me, makes it a more powerful combination. If you are soloing, then go with Steady Strikers or Lakuni Prowlers, probably. Mathematically, maybe that's just better. Or at least it seems so, according to so many builds that seem to use that instead of the Strong Arm Bracers. Alright, so for the Kanai Cube stuff, in the details, we have the Furnace, which is giving us more damage against elites, the Hexing Pants of Mr. Yan, resource regen and damage increased by 25 while moving, and we are always moving, so we really don't have to worry about the decreased part. And Convention of Elements. Now, this is what I use in both multiplayer and in solo, actually. And I want to stress, like, how difficult it was, even though it's so simple. Like, to get rid of Unity was not as obvious as I thought it would be, to figure out how do I make up for this lack of survivability, because without Unity you are really like asking to get killed with this build. There's just a few critical choices here that make it so that way without Unity we have a chance. And if anything, I think that's actually part of the reason why I like this build so much now, is because we're trying to push a lot of damage, and it's making us quite fragile, which is actually making it really exciting, especially as chaotic and as frantic as Whirlwinding is. It takes that kind of really simplistic gameplay and makes it actually really engaging, because the things that we have on our skill bar besides Whirlwinding really matter to our damage and our survivability. Otherwise, we're just a stain on the floor. Alright, so let's get into the skills, shall we? With the Furious Charge and the Merciless Assault, this is an awesome skill for mobility, damage, and also is half of our activation for Focus and Restraint, as it generates 15 Fury. The rune that I've chosen, the Merciless Assault, recharge time is reduced by 2 seconds for every enemy hit, and this effect can reduce the recharge time by up to 10 seconds. with this rune and with the amount of cooldown reduction that I have, which is just under 30%, it's like 27-ish or something like that, it's just enough to make sure that by the time our ring buff is about to wear off, Furious Charge is ready to be cast again. Even when you're hitting just a single enemy, like a Rift Guardian for example, it's no problem. Your cast for Furious Charge will be ready like about a split second or something like that, just after your ring buff wears off. So it will be up 100% of the time as long as you are paying attention to it. Whirlwind with Hurricane, the cold rune. This was actually the beginning of how I actually started this build and how I really was trying to come up with a build that would use actually cold as the central element. But being that Dust Devils are physical, there's just really no way of getting around that you want physical to be the focus of your element. However, the Whirlwind and the Hurricane rune is still, to me, the most fun. And because we are playing Torment 10. Again, this isn't Greater Rift leaderboard pushing or anything like that, so we have some wiggle room here where we can play with skills and, you know, it doesn't have to be so strict as far as like our efficiency. The Hurricane I really like because it pulls enemies from up to 35 yards away toward you while whirlwinding. This to me is exactly what the Twister that stands still in the Tal Rasha build that I did, and it pulls enemies to the center in the bubble and stuff like that, for that pool of death. This is the same idea, except you are the Twister. Actually, you're a Hurricane that is pulling all these enemies, and you can just spin around in a circle and just kind of gather them all up into this neat little pile and beat the shit out of them. And it's great. I love it. Everything like that I was doing with this build in the beginning was all about that concept, about creating this spot of death, this pool of death where, you know, everything that ends up there is going to be wiped out really quickly. And again, the cold thing was kind of a thing, but then it just turned out it wasn't going to work. But it's still quite powerful because of the convention of elements, so it all really works out. Threatening Shout with Falter. This turns Threatening Shout into, instead of a damage reducing from incoming, it turns into an increased damage outsource for 6 seconds, which is really cool. Ignore Pain. This and one of our passives, Nerves of Steel, is the only two things that's keeping us alive in Torment 10. Really, it is. With the Ignore Pain, and again with the belt, the Contempt for Weakness, it's giving us the emergency button that we need when things start to get really ugly, when you're facing those elite packs and they've got electricity, arcane, frozen, poison, whatever it is, right? This is going to be what saves your life and keeps you from dying. But it's still not enough. Without Unity, we still need something a little bit extra, and I ended up settling on putting in Nerves of Steel. Before that, this was actually, I think I was kind of going back and forth between Ruthless, which is still really, really good, and what was the other one? Oh, Brawler, right? Brawler, because of the Hurricane, we're able to pull so many enemies into this nice close area around us that we'll pretty much always have at least 3 enemies within 12 yards of us to give us this increased damage. But with all the other damage that we're trying to push, including from the Convention of Elements, it seems to me that it's more than fair that we can take and put Nerves of Steel here in one of our passive slots to give us just that little bit of extra survivability we need to Battle Rage with Bloodshed. Enter a rage, increasing your damage by 10% and critical hit chance by 3%. This lasts 120 seconds. I wish it lasted longer. 120 seconds is nothing. This should last like 5 minutes, please, or something. Even if it costs more fury. I hate babysitting this, but it works. It works actually really well. And with Bloodshed, critical hits cause an explosion of blood, dealing 20% damage done to all other nearby enemies, which is, again, really powerful since we're pulling everybody with the Hurricane rune nice and close to each other. A lot of dudes are getting hit by those explosions of blood. And Wrath of the Berserker with Insanity, because we have, again, close to 30% reduced cooldown. This means that, and also the Boon of Bolkathos, we have a really nice reduced cooldown on the Wrath of the Berserker skill. We'll be able to activate this fairly often, actually. Berserker's Rage for our other passive, dealing 25% additional damage while near maximum fury. This is possible because of the both Kathos swords and also because of the Yang's pants in the Kanai cube. And Rampage, increasing strength by 1% for 8 seconds after killing or assisting in killing an enemy. This effect stacks up to 25 times.
Hurt. No way. Impossible. I've been healed. No way. I'm hurt. Impossible. I grow weak. I can't. No way.
There you have it, guys. That is the Hurricane Whirlwind Barbarian for you that I put together here in patch 2.3. This was a lot of fun. I learned a ton about Barbarian all over again after farming all these pieces and tweaking and testing through all sorts of different little variations. And I'm really pleased with the result. It's very similar. Ultimately, it was almost inevitable to be very similar to what a lot of other people I think are doing for Whirlwind, but it's got just enough that it feels unique and fun to me and feels like a personal build that I really hope that you guys will give a shot at, and yeah, I think you'll be pleased as well. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Click the like button to support these Diablo 3 videos here on the channel. I'm going to be working as fast as I can to get to make a monk build, but oh man, it is going to take a while, because if my barbarian was far behind, my monk is way behind. It's going to be a while. In the meantime, I'll continue to play the other classes and start to get ready some more builds for Grift leveling and things like that, for bounty runs or something like that. Keep an eye on your sub box if you're subscribed, and you'll see what comes up next. Thanks again for watching. My name is Kinetic, and I'll see you next time.